everything we do is going to be a progression from week 1 to week 8. We're always going to add in competitions. We're always going to add in some sort of team building phase at the end of every practice to make sure that the guys are competing with one another. Coach Duke, I'll maybe jump into Failure Friday a little bit. What do you think about Failure Friday? What's that mean to you?
Yeah, Failure Friday is something that we would do in practice because a lot of the kids are afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to strike out. They're afraid to make an error or dive for a ball and even miss a ball. So what we do is we mix failure right into Fridays. We may crank up that pitching machine. The kids might only be used to seeing 50 or 60 miles an hour, and we might crank that thing up to 75 miles an hour. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, they may not hit them. They may miss 15 in a row before they even foul off a ball. But it's amazing how when each kid gets up there and fails and fails and fails, the next kid fails and fails and fails, all of a sudden one kid might foul one off. The kids all get excited. And next thing you know, the next guy fouls one off. And by the end of the time, maybe 7 or 8 kids even hit the ball fair. And we then use that as power and confidence when we do face a pitcher that's throwing pretty hard. We can say, hey, remember the day when we were hitting that machine at 75 miles an hour? And it just kind of gives some built-in confidence of something that as a coach I can go back to help them when we're struggling. A lot of the coaches out there, especially 8, 9, 10-year-old baseball or softball coaches, and they're asking, how do you guys make it so fun? When do you know what drills to combo and when do you combo? And so can you talk a little bit about combo drills and what that even means?
Yeah, I think one thing we really try to stay away from is one person working while 11 guys are watching. And when Duke talks about combo drills, that can be an infield combo drill where you have 4 guys. One guy's working on underhand flips, one guy's working on turns from second base, the other guy's working on picks, and then maybe he throws a pop-up to the guy standing next to him. But creating drills and really getting creative with how many kids can I actually get work in a small space? We shrink the field, so a lot of the stuff we'll do is in little areas. In our infield classes, for instance, Coach Duke will be working by third, I'll be working by short, Coach Anthony will be working by second, and in each station, you've got 4 or 5 kids actually doing a drill. So, we really try to stay away from a coach standing at home plate, hitting a ground ball to the shortstop, while the rest of the guys are standing there and watching. We'll get multiple lines going at once. We'll use a short little fungo and hit to 3 or 4 lines all at one time. Again, we're fortunate because we have a machine like a mini hack attack that can shoot out ground ball after ground ball. But if you're a coach in a gym, a tennis racket and a smush ball, a tennis racket and a tennis ball to work on pop flies and getting multiple lines going to where, the kids are moving. I think at this age, keeping the kids engaged for 90 minutes is one of the biggest struggles, and it's challenging. And in baseball and softball, the ball's not in flight the same amount of time as a basketball or a lacrosse or a soccer game. So we've got to make sure that we get creative in our practice plans. We break up into small little groups and we keep the kids moving.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how to maximize the space that you have in your practice?
Definitely. I was actually just going to talk about, breaking the cage up into multiple stations. So let's say you've got one batting cage. You have a group in the back, maybe working on front toss with a coach. So you have one L screen, coach is flipping underhand, and that player is hitting in the direction of the coach. Well, behind him, we can use smush balls. We can use tennis balls, and we can have multiple stations of maybe a T-work station, maybe a side toss station with another coach. We use hitting discs. We use bucket lids sometimes to work on our palm up, palm down extension. I think the biggest thing is coaches out there having a lot of tools in their toolbox, right? And that might mean wiffle balls. It might mean smush balls. It might mean little plastic training golf balls. The more stuff that we can have to create as many stations as possible, the better off we're going to be.
One of my favorite highlights is Coach Tyberski. When I was 7 years old, I had my first ever brown cow at Polar Cup, and that's a vanilla cone, and they dip it in chocolate, and it hardens and get that hardened shell on the outside. And that was after we won a championship, and it was like, I don't remember the championship or the trophy really, but eating that ice cream cone, that was like the high-level ice cream back then, because usually it was just all you could get is a soft cone with vanilla, and that's it. Here was like the big daddy of cones, and I was like, man, and I remember that like it was yesterday. But then as you go up, I remember all 11 coaches and what they bring to the table, from your little league coaches to Coach Natale and Coach Cruz. That was my 11 and 12-year-old coaches, and I remember Coach Natale coming in like a Porsche. And it was like, I thought coaches made the most money out of anybody. I was like, this guy's driving a Porsche. I got to be a little league coach for a living, because these guys make a ton of money. And I remember just going to the games and him talking and Coach Cruz talking. And then as we went up to high school with Coach Norm Hewitt, he was actually someone that actually took me on my first recruiting visit. He took two of the guys down to Elon, North Carolina, and the impact that these coaches have on you. And then as you go up to junior college and pro ball, it's like you just have some guys that are really, really tough coaches, and you have some really soft coaches that you didn't really like, coaches that you really like. And it kind of just grooms you the whole way, because we have teachers like that, right? Oh my gosh, if you have a teacher that you don't like, well, too bad. You can't just not pay attention and not perform well. You still have to learn how to deal with a teacher that might be a little bit tough, and a coach that might be a little tough, or a boss then that might be a little bit tough. So I think youth sports really, really helps with, helping you as you grow up and as you get older on how to deal with some of those. I want to put Steve on the spot for this one, because he did something really cool with his guys last year, about having them giving some like motivational talks, and that seemed to be something that I definitely want to do with my guys, even though they're younger. But getting them to think like that, I think, is really cool. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, that was so much fun. We got into the kind of the nitty gritty of the summer last year. We got about halfway through the summer schedule, and I've coached these kids for a long time, so a lot of the stuff that I say repeats itself from year to year, and a lot of it about your energy and your effort level always staying the same. About looking the part, about showing up ready to play, about being engaged and locked in from pitch to pitch. So I send the same message from game to game, because they know what to expect from me. From a coaching side. But we started to get into a little bit of a lull. We were just we didn't have a lot of fire. We didn't have a lot of energy for a couple games in a row. So what I did was I nominated one player to give a pregame speech the next day. And I said, Devin, you got to show up tomorrow and you got to give our pregame speech, because I was running out of things to say as a coach, right? So he shows up, and you could really tell that he cared about it and he took it serious. And he talked about a football movie that he watched, and he talked about giving the perfect effort. And he got in the middle of the huddle, and he was so fired up. He's also a football player, right? So he's got that, fiery energy to begin with. But he was talking about giving the perfect effort, and it got the guys so fired up. They did perfect effort on three, and throughout the entire game, that was like almost the word of the day, or the quote of the day. It was giving the perfect effort. And then the next game, I nominated another player. And he came, and he didn't have the same kind of energy, but it was cool. Just like Duke said, nominating a leader of the day is because you put kids in uncomfortable situations, right? Half of them have never talked out loud in front of the whole team at once. None of them have ever taken on that leadership role, or maybe like captain of the day role. But it made guys a little bit uncomfortable, and it also got me as a coach to really think about, this is what these kids are thinking about in pregame. Some of them took it real serious. Other ones were just really quiet and shy, but it was one thing that the guys looked forward to every day. It got them fired up. They couldn't wait to hear so-and-so's speech. You've got some class clowns on the team, so they would always give funny ones. But, it was just an idea that I came up with, having this one kid give the pregame speech, and then it ran. And, somebody new gave a speech each week, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. It kind of revamped the energy on the team, and the kids were excited every day in pregame.